I'm against everything he said. So.
Why are you saying this behind closed doors?
Well, there's a lot of operational details that can't be discussed publicly, obviously, for obvious reasons. So as we move forward, we'll describe our process, which is a threefold process in Venezuela. I've described it to them now. Step one is the stabilization of the country. We don't want it descending into chaos. Part of that stabilization, and the reason why we understand and believe that we have the strongest leverage possible, is our quarantine. As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now and, in fact, about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people, not corruption, not the regime. So we have a lot of leverage to move on the stabilization front. The second phase will be a phase that we call recovery, and that is ensuring that American, Western, and other companies have access to the Venezuelan market in a way that's fair. Also, at the same time, begin to create the process of reconciliation nationally within Venezuela, so that the opposition forces can be amnestied and released and from prisons or brought back to the country and begin to rebuild civil society. And then the third phase, of course, will be one of transition. Some of this will overlap. I've described this to them in great detail. We'll have more detail in the days to follow. But we feel like we're moving forward here in a very positive way.
So how long will this take, Secretary?
Some senators who were in that briefing describing your operation variously as that you're winging it, that there's no plan for Venezuela going forward.
Yeah, I know. They're going to say that. I used to be a senator too. That's what you always say when it's the other party. The bottom line is we've gone into great detail with them about the planning. We've described it to them. In fact, it's not just winging it. It's not just saying or speculating it's going to happen. It's already happening. Like the oil arrangement that we've made with PDVSA on their sanctioned oil that they can't move. Understand, they are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions. This is tremendous leverage. We are exercising it in a positive way. The president described it last night. Secretary will have more to say on it today, who is involved in running this portfolio. And we feel very positive that not only will that generate revenue that will be used to the benefit of the Venezuelan people, and we're ensured that that's what the case is, but it also gives us an amount of leverage and influence and control over how this process moves forward.
Mr. Secretary, on Denmark, sir. Mr. Secretary, on Denmark. Why is the administration not taking Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
well, I'll be meeting with them next week.
But will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then. And but I'm not having anything further to add to that today.
Can you clarify your comments to lawmakers? Does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? Does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? Can you clarify your comments to lawmakers this week?
Well, that's always been the president's intent from the very beginning. He said it very early on. I mean, this is not new. He talked about it in his first term, and he's not the first U.S. president that has examined or looked at how could we acquire Greenland. There's an interest there. But so I just reminded them of the fact that not only did Truman want to do it, but President Trump's been talking about this since his first term.
The White House put out a statement last night saying that the military option
is on the table.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. They said that the military option is on the table. So is the administration really willing to risk the NATO alliance by potentially moving ahead with military operations?
What I think the White House said yesterday is what I will tell you now, and I've always said. The president always retained the option. Every president, not this president, every president always retains the option. I'm not talking about Greenland. I'm just talking about globally. If the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means. As a diplomat, which is what I am now, and what we work on, we always prefer to settle it in different ways. That included in Venezuela. We tried repeatedly to reach an outcome here that did not involve having to go in and grab an indicted drug trafficker. Those were unsuccessful, unfortunately.
The people of Venezuela are waking up to the same regime. Do you not worry about that?
Well, first of all, the bottom line is that there is a process now in place where we have tremendous control and leverage over what those interim authorities are doing and are able to do. But obviously this will be a process of transition. In the end, it will be up to the Venezuelan people to transform their country. We are prepared under the right conditions, using the leverage that we have, which includes the fact that they cannot move any oil unless we allow them to move it to... Well, again, I'm not going to give you a timeline on it. We want it to move as soon as possible. But we didn't expect this. It's been 3 days since this happened, 4 days since this happened. So I understand that in the cycle and society we now live in, everyone wants instant outcomes. They want it to happen overnight. It's not going to work that way. But we're already seeing progress. With this new deal that's been announced and more deals to follow, you're already seeing how the leverage the United States has over those interim authorities is going to begin to lead to positive outcomes.
Does this cost American taxpayers? How long?
It doesn't cost us. It doesn't cost us
the involvement, the U.S. involvement in Venezuela? How much will it cost?
Well, it's not going to cost us any money. For example, this oil deal that's happening doesn't cost us any money. On the contrary, and if it opens up,
no money to
well,
look,
I don't have the numbers. What operation are you talking about? The entire thing?
Yeah.
Well, these troops are going to be deployed. None of these troops sit in a dry dock waiting for action. They're deployed somewhere in the world. If they're not here, they're somewhere else. Just today, our forces not deployed to the Caribbean seized a boat, a sanctioned boat tied to the IRGC that tried to flee from us. That happened somewhere else. We are constantly involved in action. We have boats in the Mediterranean. We have ships in the Middle East. We have ships in the Indo-Pacific. These ships, if they weren't in the Caribbean, they'd be somewhere else conducting activity. Yeah. That's what the Navy does.
Yeah. No, I want to emphasize that question from CNN. The question's never asked how much does it cost when they're in the Mediterranean or the Red Sea or the Indian Ocean or the Pacific. But now that they're in our hemisphere on a counter-cartel mission or ensuring that an indicted individual comes to justice, now you're asking the question of cost. It's a disingenuous question to begin with. You're trying to find any angle possible to undermine the success of one of the most historic military missions the world has ever seen. The level of sophistication that Senate just was briefed on and the House was briefed on, a classified level, is something only the United States of America can accomplish. The world is taking notice of that. Certainly Venezuela is taking notice of that. And it continues because two oil tankers, overnight, were seized by the United States of America, stateless or sanctioned, because the oil blockade, the quarantine of oil out of unsanctioned or sanctioned or stateless vessels continues. That leverage will continue as Secretary Rubio outlined. So our military is prepared to continue this. As he said, the president, when he speaks, he means it. He's not messing around. We are an administration of action to advance our interests, and that is on full display. We're happy to brief the House and the Senate.
No. Two quick things, okay? Number one, because we have to go, because we got to brief the House, and if we don't and they're pissed at us, you guys better defend us. That was because we were talking to you. I would make one more point, and it's a very interesting point. One of those ships that was seized that had oil in the Caribbean, you know what the interim authorities are asking for in Venezuela? They want that oil that was seized to be part of this deal. They understand that the only way they can move oil and generate revenue and not have economic collapse is if they cooperate and work with the United States, and that's what we see are going to happen. We got to go talk to the House, guys. I apologize.
Well, you testified publicly.
This moment is not about a press gaggle or a messy Q&A. It is about a dramatic shift in how the United States is openly projecting power in the Western Hemisphere, and the hook is simple. The administration is no longer pretending this is diplomacy first. This is leverage first, pressure first, and control first, wrapped in the language of stability and transition. If you want more breakdowns like this that cut through the noise, make sure you subscribe. At the core of this policy is an economic chokehold on Venezuela disguised as humanitarian stewardship. The U.S. is asserting direct control over Venezuelan oil flows, not by lifting sanctions, but by weaponizing them. Oil cannot move unless Washington allows it, and when it does move, the U.S. controls the sale, the price, and ultimately the use of the money. That is not a partnership, that is trusteeship. It effectively places Venezuela's most important national asset under U.S. supervision without a formal occupation. If you value clear-eyed analysis instead of spin, subscribe for more. The so-called three-phase plan tells you everything you need to know about intent. Stabilization means preventing chaos on U.S. terms. Recovery means opening Venezuela's economy to American and Western corporate access. Transition means reshaping the political order after leverage has done its job. This is regime management, not nation building, and certainly not neutral assistance. Whether you agree with it or not, it is a hard power strategy pretending to be a soft landing. If you want honest political commentary that doesn't sugarcoat reality, subscribe. What's striking is how openly this administration dismisses concerns about planning, cost, and consequences. The argument being made is that U.S. military and naval assets are always deployed somewhere anyway, so using them here is essentially free. That logic ignores political cost, escalation risk, and precedent. When power becomes routine, accountability fades. Calling questions disingenuous doesn't make them disappear. If you want accountability-centered analysis, subscribe. The Venezuela operation also signals something bigger. This administration is comfortable normalizing economic seizure and enforced cooperation as tools of foreign policy. Today, it is oil tankers and sanctions enforcement. Tomorrow, it could be something else. Once the U.S. openly claims the right to decide when another country may access its own resources, the rules-based order becomes a power-based order. That may be effective, but it is not neutral, and it will be remembered globally. Subscribe if you want global implications explained clearly. Then there's the Greenland issue, which should not be brushed off as historical trivia. Keeping military options rhetorically alive while discussing acquisition sends a message to allies that even NATO relationships have transactional limits. Saying every president retains all options may be technically true, but saying it out loud matters. It shifts norms and raises alarms, especially among partners who thought those conversations were settled decades ago. If you want sharp analysis on U.S. alliances and power politics, subscribe. My view is this: the strategy may produce short-term leverage, but it carries long-term costs. Controlling oil revenue does not automatically build legitimacy. Economic pressure can force compliance, but it cannot manufacture trust or a democratic culture. If the Venezuelan people see this as foreign management rather than liberation, the backlash will come later, not now. Power works best when it knows its limits, and this approach risks forgetting them. Subscribe for more independent, grounded political analysis. In the end, this is an administration betting that decisive action will outweigh diplomatic fallout, that speed matters more than consensus, and that strength speaks louder than restraint. That may succeed in the short run, but history shows that leverage without humility often creates the next crisis it claims to solve. If you want deep, honest political breakdowns like this regularly, make sure you subscribe.